Untamed is going to be untamed. It's going to be a little crazy. I want to talk to my people. I want to talk to my brothers and sisters. We can have grace and humility in how we interact with other people.
Oh, hot dog, look at you.
And nobody talked about what's really happening.
And let's have conversations about what truth is. Okay, so where do we start? It is Tuesday, and we are in studio with Ann Vandersteel. She was in town. I was like, you got to come over. Let's talk about all the stuff that's not happening. And maybe some of the stuff that is happening that maybe spread a little bit of hopium for you, because we definitely need it. Before I bring Ann, well, I guess we'll just bring Ann on. And yesterday we did a case that's right here. So this case is Christopher Gregory v. basically half the judiciary in Colorado. It's the biggest corruption case in, I think, the history of this state. It involves Phil Weiser, Polis, Jenna Griswold, an attorney for Coomer, David Beller, who's actually in this document, is being sued by Christopher Gregory. And the claims in this are unbelievable. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but I did want to tell all of you this. This is super important. You're going to have an opportunity to go through this. We sent it over to influencers. We basically, the first person I sent it to will remain nameless. It's got a couple million people that follow him, and he said, Joe, this can't be real. And I'm like, well, it's real. And he goes, you'd have to gut the entire judiciary. Mm-hmm. You'd have to take all of the judiciary of Colorado out in the city and county of Denver, as well as the leadership at the highest level. So we're going to make this available to you. You'll have the ability to go through it. I spent even more time on it last night. It's got me enthralled in the idea that behind closed doors, they've done nothing but steal, rob the people of Colorado blind, and committed some pretty, if they did this, imagine what they did to people where they, behind closed doors, doled out consequences to people that didn't deserve it. So you'll have all this information, and we'll cover a little bit more of this later. But Ann, welcome to the show.
Joe, good to be here. It was you saw me post and tagged your name on something, and you reached out and found out I was here in your backyard. Turns out, 15 minutes from you. Amazing.
Well, we've we talk about kind of what's happening in the country right now. What are you seeing? You've been in this a long time.
Yes, 10 years now. And 10 yeyears ago, you could call me Dory, the bluefish swimming through the ocean, and oh, what a nice shark. Today, I see nothing but sharks everywhere, and it's a landmine, our field of landmines everywhere you go. The disinformation, misinformation is everywhere, and it's really about truly having to hone in on the signal through all this massive noise that's out there. And frankly, I see a lot of frustration in the American people who have been waiting for this accountability that's coming in. We're just not seeing it yet. And, when you see the pedophiles continue to walk free, when you see Hillary Clinton and the people who stole the 2020 election continue to walk free, and the Benghazi and the Fast and Furious operations that were never held accountable, it's incredibly frustrating. And I've reported on some of these things and brought empirical data and evidence and serial numbers to prove on some of this stuff, and it goes nowhere. Congress takes it, and it's like, okay, thanks so much for playing. And we just are now learning we don't have a government that's representing us. They're not working for us. They're working for foreign interests, globalists, anybody but us.
So I talked about welcome to the show, right? Mm-hmm. Almost as a nexus to what we're living through right now. You have the haves and the have-nots.
And the have-nots is getting a lot bigger.
Yeah.
A lot.
And the haves has become a government structure surrounded by billionaires that we can't see, behind a curtain that, frankly, has been sealed off for so long. We're starting to get a glimpse of it, a glimmer of it, but we spend so much time fighting each other that we rarely get to hold people accountable that should be held accountable.
It's true. We're being run by corporatocracy, Joe. The Constitution for the United States has been sidelined by U.S. Code. going back to the 30s. We've developed an agency, corporatocracy of for-profit entities, whether it's the Department of Justice, the Department of Defense, it's Child Protective Services, it's the CDC, the NIH, FDA. They're all for-profit entities. They are all being managed by the industries that they supposedly regulate, but those are the people that have a revolving door between industry to agency. And when you leave your industry with your stock options and your retirement package, the last thing you want to do is go into an agency that is going to rain terror down on the industry and destroy your profits. So this is a completely corrupt, captured system, and that has sidelined our rights. We're being denied due process in family courts every single day. Heck, we're being denied due process in courts across the country. Habeas is being suspended. You can't even get habeas. Look what happened to J6. So we have been fully captured. All elements of the government are captured right now. And we have a president who we elected by the grace of God and the work of people that fought to, like Patrick Byrne and yourself and others who, made sure that the president got elected, that there was no hanky-panky. But he's still surrounded by the Judases. And he himself is being sidelined, and he's being ruled over by foreign interests. So we have a lot of issues that are still unresolved, and frankly, getting accountability is really worrisome for the American people at this point, and they're frustrated. And if we don't solve this before the midterms, I can assure you people aren't going to show up for the midterms. We're just not going to vote because we're going to say, what is the point at this point?
Well, I think that becomes a larger issue of what's the outcome? Like, how do we get to a place? We've been very clear on a path that we know will solve the problem. We start looking at no machines, no mail-in ballots.
Right.
Let's get to in-person, show an ID, make sure that we have clean voter rolls, which you brought up before we came on the show, so that we're really starting to hone in on what can eliminate this friction that we've created in our society of, the Democrats, Republicans, and independents. But I mean, you have friends that are Democrats. Mm-hmm. And you have friends that are independents. You have friends that basically sit in the middle. Is anybody happy right now?
Nobody's happy right now. In fact, what I find really remarkable is that this whole Epstein file saga has actually, in my humble opinion, brought the Democrats and the Republicans together because everybody's screaming for accountability. Nobody wants to see the oligarchs in Washington, D.C. sitting in Congress and Senate that are making millions and millions of dollars on $150,000, $175,000 a year salary because they get advanced wink and nods on stock trades and legislation that's going to impact the stock one way or the other. It's just not fair. And the American people have had it. They're tired of both parents having to work, pay heavy income taxes. Kids are being raised by iPads, and they're being child predators are now sneaking in through their iPads to brainwash and get these kids thinking that they're not a boy, they're now a girl, they're not a girl, they're now a boy, they're a toaster, they're a cat, use a litter box at school. This is the insanity of what's going on in our country right now, Joe.
The toaster got me. I mean, the cat part, the litter box, I get it. Who doesn't want to be a cat?
Yeah,
you got 9 lives.
But this is the insanity. I mean, we have been so infiltrated in every aspect of our life right now, and we're tired of looking at the people that are perpetrating this on us, passing legislation that's woke, into destroying our lives, walk around freely, and yet when somebody walks in the Capitol because the doors open and the guards were there and said, yeah, your friend's in here, come find them, that you go to prison for that. I mean, it's just, and who pays for that building at the end of the day? We do. So this is the part that's very frustrating for Americans right now.
Well, let's talk about how that frustration has bled over to, people running for office, people doing things that they can control at a local level. And, what's interesting in what you're saying now is that we lifted our head up to the Epstein files. Mm-hmm. Now we figured out why they didn't want it released.
Right.
And it does paint a very morbid picture of people who have said, we're on your side.
Yeah. Pam Bondi said, if we arrested everybody that's in the Epstein files, we'd collapse the government. You know what I say? Collapse the government. It is not a government working for us. Our founding fathers, I think it was the second paragraph, second sentence in the Declaration of Independence, where they talk about the fact that if this isn't working out, if you're not getting what you expect and what you deserve, then it's time to alter and abolish. I think we are clearly at the alter or abolish moment in this country right now, because what is happening in that district of corruption is anything but governance of, by, and for us, the people. We're the bosses. Trump works for us. Bondi works for us. They all work for us. And they're all in it for themselves, and they're taking care of their own personal interests, their own families. President Trump has, again, tried to make some initiatives, but unfortunately, he is now in this system where, for instance, the Clarity Act, the Genius Act, how does that get bipartisan passing and then be a good thing for America? So for those of you that own Bitcoin, say goodbye to your privacy and the ability to transact without the IRS sticking their nose under your tent, because frankly, that's exactly what it's going to do. So where's the value in all of that sort of decentralization? It's a psyop on you to basically, oh no, we're not calling it CBDC, but that's exactly what it's going to be. And then you layer in Palantir, Peter Thiel, and all of it, and you have a digital prison that is now just swallowing up the American people.
You know, I don't think anyone has an appetite for it. I don't think Democrats have an appetite for it. I don't think Republicans have an appetite for it. And I want to bring up one person in the files, because we're getting these mixed signals. We saw President Trump put up a post about Steve Bannon and with Peter Navarro, and they were standing on a stage together, and he said these two men were treated unfairly by the Biden administration. That was a day after the files came out. I started digging into it, and I saw some alarming things related to Steve Bannon inside the files. I'm not a fan of his. I'm not asking if you're a fan or not a fan. But how in the world, and I asked you this off air too, how in the world do you square that hole when you have someone so diabolically committed to one thing while hanging out with the people, the very people that victimized women and children? And you have grandchildren.
Yes.
So I have children. I don't have grandchildren yet, thank goodness. Not that I don't want grandchildren, I just don't think I'm old enough yet. Square it for me. Like, square how we can allow that person to get a free pass.
Well, that's a good question. Look, Steve Bannon and the War Room Posse, they built a great podcast early in the day. They did great coverage on the pandemic. I mean, they really, I think, brought the awareness the public needed with respect to COVID. But at the same token, you know, and I had mad respect for Steve. Unfortunately, I'm looking at what I'm seeing now, and you know, it's like all these influencers that went to the White House that day and got their Epstein binders from Pam Bondi, and they had this big moment. I think several of them probably regret it because they realized they were used.
Were they, or did they know? Because they knew that those folders were empty. They knew they were empty when they were handed to them.
Well, here's the thing. So it was such a bungled operation, right? They get these folders. Pam Bondi says, we have the files. We're gonna. We weren't even asking at that point. We were like, get the border closed, get these people out of our country.
It wasn't even what we were focused on.
It wasn't what we were focused on, and they throw this out there, and we're like, huh? Okay, well then great. Let's get the Epstein files. And then it's a big nothing burger, and then they don't have the files, and then the FBI's reviewing stuff, and it's truckloads, and it's just the back and forth. So circling it back to Steve Bannon, you know, when did all those influencers suddenly become radio silent on Epstein once the first 3 million documents dropped? Everybody went radio silent, and then there is Steve Bannon doing selfies with Steve, and you know, talking with Steve, and they're making fun of President Trump and all of this stuff. And this is supposedly the guy that is a big Trump supporter. So you have to ask.
President Trump didn't see this stuff, though. I promise you he didn't see it.
I don't think he saw it until now.
I don't think he's seen it yet.
Really?
I mean, I don't think. Look, one of the things about being the president of the United States is that you have priorities, right? It's like running a company, and I run a company, so I understand what priorities are. There are things that happen in this company I know nothing about until 2 weeks after. And I'm like, why didn't somebody tell me this? And they're like, why would, that's what you pay us for. Like, you don't pay us to involve you in some of these issues.
Okay, fair enough.
And so we often forget that the president has a limited amount of time. He still has the same time that we have.
Right.
But he's got 340 million problems. He's got 340 million people in the country that he has to oversee. So I give President Trump an amazing amount of grace. And people are like, how do you give him grace? How do you? And I'm like, because I've run a company. Because I understand what it takes to run a company.
Right.
And it's very, very difficult when you have things going in different directions to see all the things that are in front of you. I do not think he has seen Bannon making fun of him with Jeffrey Epstein, and I saw that. I saw the whole, Trump's going to be sweating when he finds out we're friends, right?
Right.
He used the word friends, and Bannon, he dug into that, right?
Yeah.
So he's an opportunist, and I personally think that at some point we've got to notify President Trump this is what's happening. We got to make it so he's aware of it, and at the same time, we cannot be tolerant of the thing that we said we were intolerant of. In my opinion.
Right. Well, I hear what you're saying, but for me, from where I'm sitting, and again, I'm not running a company of any significant size, but when something has been out there for a long period of time and it's circulating across multiple media distributions, whether it's the legacy media, podcast media, new media, whatever media, it's out there, it becomes, you can't ignore it, right? There's things that you just can't ignore. And I'm gonna take you back to the Reawaken America tour.
Oh yeah.
Okay, good times.
It was fun, actually.
It was a lot of fun. So, the big topic that we spoke about at that tour was about COVID.
Yeah.
And about transhumanism and don't take the shots. That was the biggest, really overarching theme of what that tour was about.
Right.
Would you agree?
Yes.
I mean, we talked about election integrity, but the main focus was...
I talked about election integrity.
Right.
He got sued for me.
Right.
Talking about election integrity.
So, but it was really COVID this, don't take the shot. Eric Trump was a part of the tour. Kash Patel was a part of the tour. Elena Habba popped in. Don Jr. came, etc. President Trump always called in on Eric's cell phone and said hello to the crowd and talked to the crowd. Always well received. So how is it then, that's going back 2021, we're now 2026, 5 years later, that you still have COVID shots being administered, Fauci still walking around free, the public was widely educated, in fact it was a global education about this, and President Trump still thinks it's a good idea to take the shots.
Well, so does 35% of the country.
I get it.
You know what I mean?
get it, but the data I know has been presented to him. I know there's been DMED data, the Department of Military Epidemiological Database that Tom Renz broke in January of 21 in Colorado Springs. I know that database has been presented to him personally by somebody very close to him.
Yeah.
I actually presented that information to that individual and gave it to him per his request. So I'm concerned that this is the kind of stuff that doesn't make sense to me. And I still believe President Trump wants to do right by America, and he's massing, when you're up against, like we said, the globalist corporations of all these agencies that have taken control of our government, it's captured.
Right.
It's not like you can just fire them all. I wish you could.
Well, you should. You rip the Band-Aid off. You turn everything off and then figure out what you need.
There you go, starting with the Department of Education. And we still
100%.
haven't shut that down. I thought that was Linda's job. So I'm getting concerned because I don't know what all the roadblocks are that are stopping him and preventing him from doing what seemingly should be pretty easy. And after the election integrity stuff from 2020 till 2024 when he was elected, the data was assimilated and aggregated and has been presented, and yet we haven't seen an arrest yet. And that is what is frustrating, I think, a lot of Americans at this point.
I share in that frustration, and I want you to consider this, and I agree with you, right?
Right.
That he's probably ignored some things, but as the CEO of a company that was much bigger in 2020 before I decided to open my mouth, and now I've grown it back, getting back at the helm after 3 years of being on the sidelines, I will tell you that sometimes the chatter is louder than the facts.
I get it.
And what I mean by that is, you've been in this for 10 years. You were talking about the corruption and the rot and the institutional dishonesty long before I even knew it existed, right? At the same time, I was talking about the fact that we were lying about what happened in Iraq, Afghanistan, and we killed tens of millions of people.
Right.
Because I was there. Like, I was on the ground for 6.5 years, having conversations with presidents of countries that were showing me stuff that we had done to them, right? From the highest rafters, I would yell about this stuff, and then I finally had to get out of it to take care of my children because they wanted me home, right? But when I was doing all of that, it fell on deaf ears. because the chatter of what we were really there for, because weapons of mass destruction,
Right.
it was so loud that no one was hearing it.
Right.
And so the same thing we said for COVID, because I have a mother-in-law that tried to get my wife to get a COVID vaccine, and I didn't talk to her for 2 years. I told her, don't call in my house, don't come to my house. Don't even. It's my wife. She's not taking the vaccine. What's my daughter? Well, I trump you because she's my wife, right? So President Trump gets things wrong about Tina Peters, called her a 73-year-old woman.
Right.
I mean, so he and that she had boxes of information, voter information. None of that's true.
Right.
But it's because the chatter out there is so confusing.
Correct.
That he picks up what pieces he can and tries to make sense of it in the middle of this global kind of environment.
Right.
Like everything is broken. Imagine being the president where everything is broken and you get access to all the data and you're just trying to figure it out. And half the people on your team are not on your team.
Correct.
So I look at it a little bit differently because he's got Brutuses and Judases surrounding him. Mm-hmm. That's just
listen, I give you grace on that. It's a fair assessment, Joe. I think, though, that at this point he needs, and General Flynn has said this, and we've talked about it, he needs a council of the people around him. Call it a kitchen cabinet if you want to, where these people don't get any notoriety, there's no compensation, it's behind the scenes, it's just ordinary, regular people that aren't millionaires and billionaires and oligarchs. They're just the people. To say, hey, I just want to kind of give you a pulse on what's really going on out here because you're not hearing it. I texted Susie Wiles not too long ago, and I asked her about Ivan Raiklin and why he was not notified that his name was on 4 different subpoenas that came from Jack Smith. And she responded, and I said, this is, I was asking her on the record for this information. And I had sent her some documents, and she said, I didn't realize this came out of the Senate. I said, no, this came from Jack Smith. And I went through the letters, and I showed her the letters where she was the chair of various different organizations in which they were asking her about Ivan Raiklin and then the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers. There was about 20-some names on there. But Ivan was the only one who did not fit into either of those 2 categories. And once I presented her with that data, she stopped talking. And I thought, well, that's strange because, Ivan could have, and several of these other people could have shed some really important information on the whole J6 stuff, but they were never given an opportunity to respond to a request from Jack Smith for a subpoena.
Yeah.
And I think that's gatekeeping that was harmful to the public's understanding and development of this story of what really happened during J6. And it might not have drug on as long as it did.
Yeah, I mean, so it's hard. Again, I'm not apologizing for Susie Wiles. I have her phone number. I've never used it for what you just said, the reason you just said. I've tried to give her the benefit of the doubt. Actually, I started out not giving her the benefit of the doubt. I didn't like her, right?
Why?
Because I was a negotiator in the Middle East and Africa, and I read people, and the reads weren't good, right? They were just not good. But then I started understanding the dynamics, and so I started giving her the benefit of the doubt. And so I've seen myself do this thing. I've learned through the last 5 years. I got a PhD in politics now. I think I get it, right?
Well, you're running for governor.
Yeah. So, but I now get the complexities of relationships that you have and how they play into this larger chess game that seems to be being played. And so now I don't know what to think. I see good things happening, and then it stops. And I'm like, all right, who stopped that? Because we thought we were on a path to arrest a lot of people.
Right. We expected mass arrests almost out the gate.
Yeah, then nothing happened.
And then nothing happened.
But then you have Kash Patel, that came out and said we got all this stuff happening and we're cut off drugs. But that's not what's important to the American people. The American people want accountability for 4 years of massive pain.
Correct.
And then I look at the people inside of President Trump's administration who I can find no fault in. Pete Hegseth, Tulsi Gabbard, and Bobby Kennedy. I mean, 2 of them were long-term Democrats.
Right.
And they are studs. sorry, I mean, call a woman a stud.
Oh,
Tulsi Gabbard
Tulsi's
is just-
awesome.
she's just an amazing woman.
She
and
is.
And I've been in the room, and I've shook her hand, and I said thank you. You know, I was in Oregon when she was speaking, and I look at her, and I look at him, and I look at Pete Hegseth, and then I go, they don't have enough ground. So if Susie Wiles is a smart
You
woman,
mean don't have enough runway? What do you
they don't have enough ground. In other words, they don't have enough allies inside the administration that
Got
are
it.
willing to do the right thing. And you know, if you read The Art of War,
Yeah.
like what President Trump is dealing with right now is the difference between winning and losing for the American people is a grain of sand between the two. Like it's that volatile. We can see it, right? And so I look at Susie Wiles as a person that frankly doesn't want to come out the loser in that grain of sand. So she's on both sides. And not both sides of the bad, but just both sides of not wanting to push too hard in one direction, knowing that the implications are like President Trump pushes too hard in one direction, he got sued. Mm-hmm. He got persecuted, he got charged. I mean, they did a lot of bad things to him. So I see that most people have what Susie Wiles has, which is a low appetite for loss, personal loss, but a high appetite to do the right thing if it favors the fact that there's a high probability it's successful. Mm-hmm. So I look at Susie Wiles as my indication of whether or not we're going to be successful or not. Because if she doesn't push hard in that direction, then she doesn't believe it can happen, which means there's too many Brutuses, too many Judases that are still in that environment.
And it doesn't concern you at all from her background?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's,
Yeah.
you know, a huge concern, a huge red flag, you know, being somebody who was, you know, lobbying on behalf of Pfizer, which clearly has made a lot of money.
Yeah.
You know, and now they're gobbling up companies that are fixing the problems of the vaccine, quote unquote, air quota vaccine, I call it a bioweapon, created, you know, whether it's heart or cancer or whatever, they're gobbling them up and, you know, they're going to continue. And I watch Bobby Kennedy stand behind President Trump when President Trump is talking about some of this stuff, and he looks like he's a little bit like he's in a lot of pain because this is going, and it's totally antithetical to what he's talked about for years. Mm-hmm. And
I see all that.
Right. I think America sees all that. I don't think they're immune to it. I think they're seeing it going, what in the heck is going on up there? So then it gets back to the gatekeeping of, like you said, you know, President Trump depends on his people to give him the lay of the land. And I think Susie Wiles is really very problematic in this aspect because he's not getting the information he needs. And for whatever reason, I don't know how Bobby Kennedy can't pass a note before he leaves the office like a hostage and say, help, sir, but, you know, here's what's really going on.
Yeah, I agree. I can't disagree with you. And I think that, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head before when you said, this is before we came on, that the American people are literally on both sides, all sides, not represented. Like there's no part of the government
Zero.
that represents the people.
Zero.
And we're treated like serfs and slaves. I mean, in essence.
And frankly, by definition of our 14th Amendment, they stripped us in 1868 of our rights as given and ordained by God and codified by our, you know, in our Constitution, our Bill of Rights. But they stripped us of that, Joe, and they exchanged it for the privilege of being a U.S. citizen. Now square that with what we saw coming across the border. The privileges those people got for the last so many years. That
Entitlements.
Entitlements. It's exactly 3 hots and a cot, healthcare, Medicare, education, childcare, and then, you know, a minimum of $2,200 or $2,300 a month, and in some instances up to $10,000 per person coming across the border. Now you show me a veteran who is getting that kind of wealth every month from the federal government after they served. Well, you can't.
You know, that brings up a separate problem of why I ran for office, because as I have conversations with people all over the state, look, I have zero desire to be in any office. Zero.
I don't know why anybody would at this point, because it's dysfunction.
But I do believe that we have to be very tactical, and I think that's in large part where President Trump his shortcoming is is that he's not tactical enough. When he decides to step up to the table and sign something to get something done, it happens. When he wanted to close the border, he closed it. 15 minutes later, it's as if somebody turned the faucet off.
Right.
When he wanted to get people out of the country, he got them. He just said, "Go out there and take care of it." He ripped the Band-Aid off.
Right. And he ignored Boasberg on several instances, which he should have.
But this is where you get into how they've stood in the way of tactical. Now, I don't know if it's the Susie Wiles is the issue, or Pam Bondi, she's just as much problematic, or Todd Blanche, another problematic one. And now we have Ed Martin and Todd Blanche basically kissing and making out on social media, which is problematic. Or the fact that they walked past all of this information. I believe that the only way we can reset it is to have free and fair elections. We haven't had that in all 50 states in decades.
Correct.
Right, we just woke up to it in 2020 being so obvious
Right.
to us. But as we start looking at all these different problems and the people that are involved in it, how do we give, I also look at the other side of how do we give President Trump enough cover where he can feel that pressure so that he's willing to do more to be tactical. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, it makes sense. You know, I'm just, I guess I'm sort of that person that walks into a room and says, hey, there's an elephant in the corner. Do you want me to get rid of that? Because it doesn't belong in your living room. If I was President Trump, and I know that would never happen, but if I was, I would simply just...
We have to change genders. So
yeah, that's not going to happen. But anyhow...
Toaster.
I'm a toaster. I'm a toaster. If I was President Trump, and I do believe he has, you know, I believe his kids are paying attention to social media. Don's very active on social media, so is Eric, his son Barron. I do believe that, you know, he has to have some awareness of all of this, that the American people are frustrated. Look, he got frustrated with us, started calling us panicans and a few other choice words to, you know, to say, why are you so concerned about the hoax of the Epstein files? And here it is. Was he playing us on that?
A little bit.
I think he was. I think he was really doing that so that the rest of the mainstream media would start to say, well, he must be in there. It must be juicy. We got to dive in. I think he psyoped him, and I think it was a great play. But at the same token, I think at this point he recognizes, because he said it, wow, the swamp was a lot deeper than we thought. He said it going back when. So knowing that, he really should be marshaling, and he has, effectively. Look at all the podcasters out there. Look at all the investigative journalists. I mean, Nick Shirley's everywhere now, exposing everything. Laura Loomer set the pace on that a long time ago, James O'Keefe, and so on. But now it's ubiquitous, right? So we're doing it. We are effectively governing, and we're exposing, and we're showing. What we haven't done yet, and this is really critical, is restored the citizens' right to grand juries.
Yeah.
And the way we do that, it's already codified in our Bill of Rights in the Fifth Amendment. So the way we do it is we have to repeal or just flat out ignore the Federal Rules of Criminal Procedures Act from 1946. Because Rule 6 is very clear. That is what has stripped, should we say stripped? It hasn't stripped. It has just put a blanket over. Remember, the U.S. codes and all this, they're blankets on top of our constitutional rights. So it has stripped or usurped our right to the citizen grand jury, and Rule 6 just needs to be ignored and or repealed, or just throw it all out. Because frankly, Joe, you should be able to say, hey, I want to investigate what's going on in my backyard. I want to investigate the judge that put Tina in jail. I want to investigate everybody involved in this case. Right, but you should be able to stand a grand jury up, do the investigation, have the indictment, and send that presentment to your local sheriff, and have that sheriff start making arrests. And then have a court with a jury of their peers. This is how the system is supposed to work. It was how it was designed. It's how it always worked until 1946, where it really just went fully tilt in the other direction, became this administrative courts.
So they think we're stupid. That's why.
That's exactly right.
And we are.
And we have been.
Sorry.
We turned over everything to the nanny state.
Yeah. So that leads me to, you know, where do we go from here? And I was showing you that right outside of our office, you know, DHS is right there. There's a couple hundred vehicles here. You know, I'm hopeful that leads to mass arrests, right? Mm-hmm. But I look at it and go, we have gone so long with not one arrest, not one, and not one. Like, they could solve a lot of problems by just arresting the people at Dominion Voting Systems, and they know that it's factual.
Right.
They have all the information. I have been told that they have literally seen it all. Patrick Byrne has over a dozen whistleblowers.
That's right.
That have signed affidavits, that have given testimony. They have that. And they say things like, well, you either want it done right or you, no. Look, if you observe somebody shoot someone and you can see it and you can taste it, smell it, feel it, and you have the people from Venezuela and you have the people from Serbia and you have all this stuff, pardon my language, you arrest those motherfuckers.
That's right.
And yet, here we are, right? A year later, that would have put it all to bed. That one deal would have put, and I hate to fixate on that because obviously millions of Americans died during COVID. Yeah, they put this vaccine out that has caused more comorbidities and deaths than you can imagine.
None of it would have happened if we had real elections.
None of it.
None of it would have happened if we had real elections. Our country is so much more conservative, and they're just frankly pragmatic, common sense people in this country. Yeah, there's some screwballs in these big cities, but that's okay. This goes back to if we'd had real elections, we wouldn't have a CIA controlling the Hollywood movie industry and everything else that just sort of cascades down into the psychosis.
Central casting.
Central casting, exactly. The education department, all of it. None of this would really exist had we had real elections because, frankly, people would not tolerate being governed by unelected bureaucrats.
Right.
None of those people in these agencies, did you or I decide, oh, we want so-and-so, Fauci in there. Dr. Death? Really? I mean, the guy lied. I'll never forget. I was getting over COVID, Joe, in March of 2020, lying in bed. Literally, I'd been on death's door. And because I was at CPAC, and they sprayed it in the HVAC system, I believe. That's at least what I learned from Sasha Latapova. And I came home deathly ill. But I watched President Trump talking about hydroxychloroquine in some letter he got from a doctor in New York. Turns out I ended up meeting that doctor shortly thereafter, Dr. Zelenko, and doing the first podcast interview with him. What a great guy. God rest his soul. What a beautiful...
He saved my friend.
He saved a lot of people. He saved my friends, my daughter, a lot of people. Got her exemption letter from having to get the shot when she went to CU Boulder, as a matter of fact.
Right before he died, my friend got off a cruise with his mom who had ALS. And I think you actually are the one that gave me his number.
Probably.
And I called him and I was like, my friend's dying. He's in the hospital. They won't let him go.
Yes.
I need your help. And he's like, I'm on it. I flew down there. He personally made sure I had everything. He met me. Gave me a bunch of stuff. Said, here, gave me a hug. Very charismatic guy. And then he passed away a couple months later of cancer. After a surgery. So
So, but Dr. Zelenko's letter was talking about HCQ, hydroxychloroquine. And Trump said, I feel really good about this. Well, he was right. And before Trump could utter another word, literally, it was like watching football. Fauci comes out of nowhere, stage right, and practically bum rushes President Trump off the podium, off the microphone, and says, but we need to have double-blinded, placebo-controlled trials, and blah, 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 blah. So I'm immediately looking, and I hit Google, and I type in HCQ, and I find right on the NIH website from 2003 where they proved it was efficacious in treating coronaviruses, not only for treatment, but for prevention. And I now this is 2000, and this is 2000. And I go, this is 2020. And I said, holy crap, this is something much more sinister going on here. There's something really bad going on because this guy knows this and he's lying through his teeth. What is he covering? What's coming? And of course, the talk about the vaccine. And then the next thing you know, Joe, in a couple weeks later, I get some interesting LinkedIn messages from some people inside the government that are showing me patents for Moderna from 2015 and SARS-CoV-2. And who was on the SARS-CoV-2 patent? And all of the
Fauci.
You had Rothschilds, you had Burroughs Wellcome, you had Bill and Melinda Gates, and then you said malaria, HIV, and all these other disgusting diseases were cut into the SARS-CoV-2 virus. So this is our government, not the one we chose, that is intentionally poisoning the world.
All right, Black Robe Regiment.
Where are they?
Tell me what you know about the Black Robe Regiment.
Phil Hostenpeller was one of the guys that I remember early on really talking about the Black Robe Regiment. Pastor Phil Hostenpeller, as I should say.
It is the righteous against the wicked.
It is.
Right?
It's we are in a battle of good versus evil. This is literally Satan's rampage on the planet right now, and God's children had better wake up and, first of all, get right with God, know Jesus, and start acting in accordance to your faith, because this is our temple, right? Your temple, my temple. We are children of Him, and it has been attacked in numerous ways, whether it's emotional, mental, or physical. And the spiritual attacks are all-encompassing of all of the above I've just mentioned. So the Black Robe Regimen needs to be activated yesterday, and getting people, focusing on God first, because everything else flows from that, like our Constitution. Our founding father, God is mentioned 4 times. The Creator is referenced 4 times in our founding fathers' documents, between our Declaration and our Constitution for the United States. We don't even understand that the Bible is the initial law book, the foundational law book for all of humanity, frankly.
Yes.
Right? He gave man dominion over what? The land, the air, and the sea. So L-A-W.
We don't have much domain over the sea, though. We don't know much about it.
Yeah, there's some interesting things at the bottom. But anyhow, land, air, water, there's your law book. And we don't think like that.
All right, let's back up a minute. President Trump, again, I give him probably more grace than other people do. I'm also, I write things to President Trump quite often. I put it on social media and I say, all right, listen, these are some of the things that have to happen. You pardon Tina Peters, great. I have conversations with Peter Tickton and with Patrick. But let's kind of back up a minute on the constitutionality and governing ourselves. Mm-hmm. And so I'm gonna throw all that aside right now, and I'm gonna talk about the World Economic Forum and a man named Yuval Noah Harari.
Right.
He was on a stage in April of 2020, okay, right as the pandemic happened. Mm-hmm. Nobody was wearing a mask. He wasn't wearing a mask. Right as everything was happening. And he said that we have to eliminate 95% of the world population.
Right.
Now you have grandchildren. Mm-hmm. 95% means that your family has a 5% chance of surviving.
Right.
And we can see the haves versus the have-nots.
Right.
And the people that they hate the most are God-fearing Christian men and women. They fear those people. So they're the target number one. Right. How does everything you're seeing happen right now equate to the devil itself? I'm going to call it that. You've all know Harari saying that we have to kill off 95% of the population. How does that equate to what you see happening today, even in the Trump administration?
Okay, as I mentioned when we stepped outside on your balcony, they're still spraying us like roaches from the skies.
Right.
They are exterminating us today. In fact, I've got some good friends, Dr. Will Spencer and Billy Bond, who has a permaculture farmer. Billy is brilliant. He's actually remediated the soil post-Hurricane Helene in North Carolina because it was so full of radioactive material and all sorts of other horrific, synthetic and biohazardous waste in the soil everywhere that he figured out how to do it, he and Will Spencer. And they can remediate soil that has been destroyed in a matter of months. Now, I received a text message from Billy I think it was the week before last, where Dr. Will had been using satellites to analyze soil in the wake of that Operation Fern storm, whatever you want to call that big sweeping storm that went across the mid-Atlantic. And it's, Florida was in 22 degrees at my house, believe it or not, in South Florida.
Lost a lot. This place in Texas, so yeah.
Yeah, we lost a lot. So anyhow, that all being said, when I received this text message from Billy, he was showing me, and I could pull it up on my phone, but he was showing me a number of synthetic and radioactive hazardous material that's in the soil, all in the wake of that storm. Things that don't belong there at all. How did they get there? Well, when you start to measure what's in the sky being sprayed by these indigo pilots who don't have families, clearly don't believe in God, and are part of the plan of extermination of the planet, you can see that this is still going on. And President Trump cannot not know about this. It's too obvious at this point. It is everywhere. The talk of chemtrailing, geoengineering, it is everywhere. Dane Wigington, who is the godfather, if you will, of geoengineering the planet, what's really going on in exposing this, has testified before Congress. So again, you have to ask yourself, if walking out of your front door is hazardous to your health, and we were concerned, we didn't know where COVID was and what it was coming from, so we were all freaked out in the beginning until we learned, then why are we not even addressing that issue? We've had states ban it, but you can't have states banning something when they don't have control of their own, if they're not attacking the problem properly. The states are not republics anymore, they're corporations, just like the federal government is. And so
56 cents on every dollar goes to the government.
Exactly.
You're basically a slave.
You're a slave.
Yeah.
So we're a slave and we're funding our own guillotine from the sky.
Yeah, except for the people that come here that are not here legally.
Oh, they're fine.
Yeah,
they can get whatever they want.
They get free stuff on our backs.
Right, right. They get that 56 cents.
Yeah. So that. By the way, I need to tell you, we had this thing where we saw this chemtrails and all the stuff that was happening.
Right.
And some bad things started happening. So we on the show said, I want you to send me samples of water from everywhere that you are. And we had, I don't know, about 20-ish people send me water samples. So I sent the water to get tested. What do you think happened?
Well, did they lose the samples?
Oh no, they made the samples, but then I was able to take that information, and people in the audience know this because they're like, well, what happened? And so I'm like, it's complicated because we're finding stuff in the water, and I really want to make sure that it's real. So now I go to certain areas and I'm like, hey, we should probably go check this area, we should check this area, and see if we can reproduce it, because you never know when people could put in water.
Oh, right.
Right, but the stuff that was in the water, this is rainwater, by the way.
Cesium-137, barium,
Yes.
strontium, aluminum.
Yes. Aluminum at a rate that was scary.
Worse than the vaccine adjuvant aluminum?
You remember back in the early 80s, they told us that we had acid rain?
Right,
Was it acid rain, or was it that they created it,
right.
the problem, by doing this cloud seeding and things like that?
I think it's what you just said. They created the problem. Absolutely, they created the problem. But have you noticed that people are having a lot of recall problems? Memory, short-term memory, they're lost for words, people's names.
Yeah.
The recall just isn't there, and it's not because you're over 50. It's literally happening to 30-year-olds, 20-year-olds. I mean, I'm seeing it and I'm hearing it, and people are complaining about it. Like, I'm sorry, I don't know, I just can't remember this name. And I hear it all the time.
Happens all the time, yeah.
And I know we're distracted and there's a lot of information, and you and I are constantly, because we're information people, we're always,
Yeah.
but people who aren't in the information business.
I was standing next to Patrick the other day, and I was trying to introduce him, and I couldn't remember Patrick's name. And like Patrick, I was like, what the hell's wrong with me? I can't remember Patrick's name. And I was standing next to my wife. This is a weird thing. I was sitting with my wife last night, and I went to introduce my wife, and I was like, and Jason, this is. And she's like, Erica. It's like my wife. I'm like, what's wrong with me? And I can remember everything. But I mean, sometimes you just, I chalk it up to working 12 hours and then going to a game, type of thing. But.
Well, yes, but if you're breathing aluminum, strontium, barium, and look, barium, aluminum, BAAL, ball.
Yeah.
Barium and aluminum have been sort of the base, the foundational mix, if you will, for this geoengineering, which is kind of ironic that they would have those two together, because it spells ball, which is obviously satanic.
Yeah.
But I do think that, from where I'm standing, the government is so in the business of being a part of facilitating and ushering in this new world order. J.D. Vance talked about the new world order the other day on an interview. I forget who he was with. Somebody, was it CBS or something?
Did he talk about it in endearing terms, or did he talk about it in non-endearing terms?
No, in endearing terms. That President Trump is facilitating this new world order, and he was really making reference to the banking situation. But from where I'm sitting, and we talked about it earlier, the Clarity and the Genius Act are basically stripping the decentralization aspects and the anonymity and being able to operate outside this United States jurisdictional financial cabal, so that you can actually support your family.
Yeah.
And they're stripping people that own Bitcoin of that. And then you're seeing the price of Bitcoin, frankly, reflected. It has been on a downward trajectory. In fact, Michael Burry, I think, tweeted out a couple of days ago something about Bitcoin to zero. And this is the guy who was in the big short. He shorted the housing market in 2008. He's a pretty sharp dude.
Yeah, I'm not sure I agree with him there. They'll find a way to re-decentralize.
Right.
And they'll find other ways around it. Ethereum, again, down almost 60, 65, 70%. I think everything is basically readjusting to this idea that it doesn't have anonymity anymore. It doesn't have the ability to to control your own. And so that 56 cents on every dollar now is going to bite into that.
But you know what I do think is a good thing?
What?
Is, the fact that they've created, making silver and gold and everything else, the critical minerals. This is significant. That executive order that Trump signed is very significant. And when you look at it on the global scale of, for instance, the BRICS countries, they are settling all of their debts in gold. In other words, if Russia and Brazil are trading oil and soybean, clearly soybean won't ever measure up to the amount of cost of oil. It's not equitable. They have to then pay Russia in gold for the difference. Okay,
right.
So trade imbalances are all settled in gold in the BRICS nations. We have to become an asset-backed economy again. We have to. We are so asset-rich in this country. There's no reason we shouldn't be. That is where our wealth is. We have far more wealth than we do in debt. Our debt could be washed out with the $250 trillion of assets we have in this country.
Well, so let's talk about the debt for a minute.
Okay.
Because I like data.
Okay.
So I dug into our $38 trillion debt. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Most of that's fraud.
It doesn't exist.
It's fraud debt.
But it doesn't exist. Look, I could only find $2.5 to $3 trillion in actual debt, and I found that China owns less than of our debt, like 5%. 8%. I think my last check it was like 8%, but it was like 200 billion. It wasn't what they said it is, where China holds all our debt and they could. And I was on the show and I was talking to an economist. And I asked him, I go, am I crazy? And he got quiet, like it was eerie. And I go, so I asked another economist this, and I can't find the debt, and I'm going through it. I'm looking at all the budgets, and I'm breaking it all down. And I threw it into AI so I could make sure that I was right. And then I put it on this calculator over here and built out this pivot chart that I built through Power BI. And I said, brother, I can't find it. I can't find the debt. But they've used this as an excuse to get more money from us. Mm-hmm. I was like, am I wrong? And he goes, and he shook his head slightly and said, you're not wrong.
So how much debt do we actually have?
$3 trillion at most.
So where is these other numbers?
Doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. And it does not exist.
So they've appropriated funds and then never spent them, is what you're saying?
Appropriated funds. It's silly money. You can't trace it to anything. And look, the way the budgets work and how you get access to it, you start looking at the budgets for different departments and how they use that money and how they redistribute that money and how it then reflects back to the debt, right? Of how we have debt. We have a deficit every year. Doesn't exist. Remember the last 8 audits that the Pentagon had, they failed. Trillions of dollars is missing.
Yep.
So how do you have trillions of dollars missing if you have a budget or if you have a deficit of $37 trillion, where Doge was able to go in and find that this computer over here, you just push a button and send out $500 billion, right?
Well, if you listen to Catherine Austin Fitts, and I'm a avid listener of hers, she'll tell you that $22 trillion went to building underground military bases and all kinds of cities.
But it doesn't, the debt doesn't exist. The money is not there. The transfer, the transaction, it's not there. It doesn't exist. Look, I'm really, really good at system architecture. You can say whatever you want about me, but first of all, Coomer was on that call. Second of all, and I just got vindicated 2 weeks ago on that deal, thank God. And I understand things. I'm like the Rain Man when it comes to understanding things. I went through it. I was talking to Patrick. I was talking to the team, and I'm like, listen, I don't understand this. Like, this makes no sense. The debt doesn't exist.
Well, I guess we're going to find out if that's true, Joe. They're printing money. They're appropriating money. The money.
So how do you have debt if you're printing money?
Well, because we don't control the printer. That's the Federal Reserve, and they're charging us interest on that. So are you suggesting that we just lay the, quote, debt at the feet of the Federal Reserve and walk?
It doesn't exist. The Federal Reserve actually is the one that dictates what you actually owe.
Correct.
So the Fed is basically telling us that we have $37 trillion in debt, $38 trillion in debt.
Well, from where I'm sitting, that number that you're talking about has to come from an appropriation. Look, we just signed we keep signing these, I call them kicking the can down the road, these CRs, these continuing resolutions. We need so many billions to here. We're going to send Israel more money. We're sending Ukraine more money, whoever. Never seen coming to America for that matter, but whatever. They keep appropriating money for things, and we never get a balanced budget. We have no balanced budget resolution. It's just kicking the can down the road. So what you're saying is they're telling us that they're going to appropriate $1 trillion here and $1 trillion there, and that it never gets printed?
Never existed.
Meaning it was never printed.
At all.
Okay.
So
how are they funding government then?
off a ledger. There's no debt. I can't find the debt. I sent it over to a friend of mine who's he's a commodities trader, understands silver, gold. How do we become an asset backed
right.
And I understand the BRICS. You have another 6 countries or 7 countries that are getting ready to come into BRICS. So it won't just be Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. It's going to be a bunch of countries that are trying to get into that area, right?
Right.
So, so I looked at this from the perspective of, okay, we're borrowing money from ourselves, we're taking it out of Social Security, and then you look at the amount of money that's being put into Social Security, 7.5% on one side, 7% on the other side, and you look at the amount of entitlements that are pushed out for Social Security, and those don't balance. We actually have a surplus, not a deficit, but yet they're cutting Social Security benefits in order to then fund other things. But if you look through the budgets, that's not what you see. And nobody's ever taken the time to look at it. It's kind of like looking at the COVID. When you said you went through and looked at who owns these patents for,
right.
You can see it, but nobody ever talked about it.
Right.
Well, what's the benefit of them saying we have $38 trillion in debt and the average family is responsible for $100,000?
Right.
Then they can walk in and say we need to raise taxes by another 2%,
right.
another 3%.
Oh, Dr. Oz said it the other day. He says you got to work longer, and later in life, and that's just the way it is. Excuse me, but we didn't fund this crap. We didn't pay for it. We didn't vote for it. None of it. So,
but he doesn't have to work later in life.
No, of course not.
I mean,
he's an oligarch. He's one of them.
And in large part, I've done really well. I mean, I grew up super poor, but I don't have to work if I don't want to. My retirement is set up, right? It's not as much as it would have been if I sold my company for $250 million in 2021, but I could be comfortable. But they're telling, Dr. Oz and others are telling us, guess what? You should never retire.
That's exactly right. That's what they're telling us. Keep working. Keep on the hamster wheel, the treadmill. Don't stop. We need you to keep generating your work so we can tax you on
$38 trillion, $38 trillion. You're now $39 trillion. It is, the sky is falling every day.
Right.
And I can't find it. I mean, I'm telling you, I just brought up something that it's been bothering me every day.
I would love it if we didn't have the debt. I would frankly love it if we would shut down the Federal Reserve, or we shut down the IRS and shut down all the agency government. That's frankly what needs to happen to go back to the Constitution. There's only 19 essential services listed on that, and none of this stuff that we're talking about is in those essential services for the government to have any say from the federal side. If you want that crap in your state, go for it. Have all the crap you want. But the federal government is here to protect us and defend our borders. That's it. Oh, and deliver our mail. That's about, and they still can't even get that done right. They're getting their butts handed to them by, bigger companies, UPS, FedEx, DHL, etc. So
Amazon,
Jeff Bezos, another government contractor, along with Elon Musk.
We just covered a lot. I brought up the debt. I probably shouldn't have, because it's a larger problem, deal that I can't seem to square. And I keep asking guys these are really smart economists that.
If we walked away from the debt, what would that look like on a global scale?
Doesn't exist.
Okay, so let's say, if we just say, okay, we decided our debt doesn't exist, right?
You can't even fathom what I'm saying, because you're like, well, where is it? Well, what I'm saying is that it never was there. That they basically manufactured this out of thin air, because they didn't have any idea what their revenue was going to be and how things were going to come in. President Trump is talking about getting rid of income tax.
Right.
You want to know why? Because you can't. It doesn't exist. I'm telling you. And this is the hardest thing to understand, is we've been told for so long that something exists, that we're in debt. China owns 50% of our debt. I've heard it everywhere. Everyone says. I mean, Jeffrey Sachs is the kingmaker of the sky is falling. CIA. And so he says, we got all this debt and all this stuff. And you're saying, where is it? It's not there. It doesn't exist.
Great. So if we say it doesn't exist, we're not hurting anybody else around the world. What did China buy all the treasuries for? What did Japan buy the treasuries for? Why did Japan get their...
Well, Japan is the largest purchaser of our debt.
Correct.
Right.
So when they started wanting to sell it, who was it? The Secretary of the Treasury, what was her name? Yellen ran over there. Remember the mushroom incident?
Yeah.
She ran over there and was like, "You're not going to do that. You are not going to be selling our debt off. You're not selling it back. You own it." You know, she got real huffy about the whole thing. And they sort of were like, "Okay, here, have some mushrooms in your tea."
So, but what if the debt didn't exist and the purchases of that so-called debt that you have was just to create more entitlements that they wouldn't have to call entitlements like they do for Ukraine and all these other places?
Excuse me. Say that one more time. If they didn't have...
What if it's all just a shell game? What if it's like, hey, listen, you say you're going to buy this debt, we'll pay you these entitlements, right? Which they've been
Right.
doing since World War II because we, bombed the shit out of them. And it's just a way of saying that you're basically moving stuff around on the ledger.
You know what? That wouldn't shock me at all.
Yeah.
Because they've been doing that with everything else. Everything else has been a shell game. That's why you have these agencies. They're all for-profit shell corporations to do exactly that. Listen, every time, I mean, if you look at the corporate construct, it's designed to do exactly what you just suggested. A corporation does something terrible, they collapse the entity, the same little scoundrels that built that entity move over here, pop up another tent, and they start business as usual. And it's the relationships those people have with the federal government that allows this sick cycle to continue. So that wouldn't surprise me. And the fact, the longer I sit here and listen to this, I'm thinking to myself, good Lord, if that's true, holy shit.
And I said it, and when you have economists that are like I just said a secret or something.
Right.
I mean, it's amazing because, I had to go back and rewatch his face in it because it was like, oh crap. All right, let's circle back. I think I have you for another 20 minutes or so, because I want to get back to the stuff that you've been posting on.
Uh-oh.
You ready for this?
Go. Bring it up. What do you want to go?
Put your mic on. I think they
Am I
turned it
on?
off. Hey, we're going to take a quick commercial break so we can fix Ann's mic. We'll be right back with some fire. We'll be right back.
In every thread, in every stitch, Honor-Bound USA weaves the fabric of the American spirit. It's not just apparel, it's a testament to God, family, and country. At Honor-Bound USA, we're a family of patriots who put our faith, family, and America first. When you visit our website, you'll find a line of products that embody our commitment to pray, stand, speak, and act. As the official site for the Untamed podcast, all of our products proclaim speaking the truth with courage. We also have the powerful documentary from Professor David Clements, Let My People Go. Identify yourself as one of the few who are willing to stand for what they believe in. Join the Honor-Bound USA family today. Wear it as a badge of honor, commitment to the values that shape us, and a pledge to the bright future we will build together. Because when you're honor-bound, you're not just wearing a brand, you're embodying a lifestyle.
All right, welcome back. We got all the mics fixed. Everything's done. The deep state tried to get in the middle of it. Just kidding. That's totally not true. We had to fix it and take a bathroom break at the same time. So good to be back. And I have, we were talking about Roger Stone. And I'm a big fan of Roger Stone's.
Same.
And, it all leads back to like this Steve Bannon, Roger Stone. You talk about Navarro. You talk about some of even Mike Flynn, who was absolutely decimated by people that behind the scenes, I think, even General Flynn thought were his friends.
Yeah.
And so I've watched all your socials, the stuff that you put up. It's one of the ones that I actually get to see on the socials. How do we square? We were talking about Steve Bannon, $15 million build the wall. The partner that he partnered with, who was a quadriplegic,
Quadra amputee.
quadra amputee.
Right.
He did not escape it.
No.
Steve Bannon escaped it, but a man that served our country and lost his limbs didn't.
Right. Well, Steve was also Navy. He served as well. Don't want to take that down. It's very interesting how some people take the brunt of if you want to call it an operation. They did build a wall. There was a wall built. Did it cost as much money as they raised? I don't know. I'm not an engineer. I'm not even going to speculate on that. But he pled guilty to $15 million of money laundering on this. That was his plea. So you have to ask yourself, how come he does a minimum, and he doesn't even get sentenced for that. He gets sentenced into prison in Connecticut for contempt of court, right? So how does that happen?
Well, he got a pardon. I mean,
he got a
Trump
pardon, that's true, you're right, he got a pardon. But how does that even happen? How does it that certain people seem to be penalized and others aren't? I mean, it's similar to, you look at the JCIP landscape, look at any of the landscapes that the federal government is involved in, there's always winners and losers. And it's interesting, when I look at what Steve Bannon has managed to accomplish. At the beginning, we talked about it, the War Room, great show, did all the right things he needed to do to wake people up during COVID. But I also know that he had an opportunity to meet with somebody, and I don't want to divulge the specifics yet because I don't have necessarily permission to talk about it, but a good friend of mine who's been fighting for our First Amendment for some time was introduced to Steve through a known CIA asset.
Mm-hmm.
And
I want to hear about that offline.
Yeah, and so, and Steve's response when he walked in the door is, who the F are you and why the F are you here? And by the way, my friend's cell phone was taken by this known CIA asset before he was allowed to walk in the room. So I just think that's very interesting that he has these...
Yeah, Bannon never said that to me. I would level the guy. I would literally just crush his face.
Yeah, and this guy, my friend has spent the last, should we say, 8 years fighting for our ability to have free speech.
Well, I mean, that leads me down kind of a very bad rabbit hole because, we've been called anti-Semites, we've been called Nazis, we've been called all sorts of names. And you bring up an interesting dilemma, as does some of the things that you've shared. And that is being MAGA versus MAGA.
Right.
Like, what does it mean to make Israel great again or make America great again?
Right.
And who is really in charge? And we're not allowed to talk about it because if people realize who's in charge, then you realize that you are, in fact, a slave.
Right.
There was an interview that you shared of Michael Lester with Sean Ryan.
Yeah.
And Michael Lester accuses the United States of being owned by Israel.
He does.
The scary part is, we look at Colorado, you have Polis, Griswold, and Weiser, among others. Right. And then you have this Zionist, kind of this cabalish, rhino establishment cartel, right? That is all seems to be enshrined in this. I shudder to call them Jews because they're faithless people. They actually have denounced God. They don't believe in God. They're atheists, yet they run all the power levers of the state of Colorado specifically. Mm-hmm. I want to play this video that you shared. This is Michael Lester. And then I want to get your thoughts on what he's saying and what the implications are of that if we don't get banned, which we won't because you have untamednation.com. You can always go there. I won't ban you. And we take care of our own bandwidth, so nobody can stop me. Let's go ahead and play it.
Who do you think we're occupied by?
APAC.
A lot of people think that.
The evidence is there. The evidence is all there. It's oh, come on. We send $18 billion a year to Israel. Why? Just ask the question, what do we get out of it?
Nothing.
We get nothing. Are we doing humanitarian work? No, they're charged with genocide. They're killing off Palestinians. Are we helping them survive? Oh, they've got a higher standard of living than we do, a longer lifespan than we do, free education, free housing, free health care, but we're sending them money. Why? Ask yourself why a U.S. congressman can wear an Israeli military uniform in congressional chambers. I would think that would be an act of treason. But they did. Nobody said anything. Ask why the Israeli prime minister can bypass the president, fly directly in and speak to our Congress without any other government interaction.
I didn't know that could happen.
Oh yeah, Netanyahu did. Flew straight in, bypassed the president, talked to the Congress. Congress gave him 26 standing ovations. I think most pop stars would like 26 standing ovations. Our Congress gave Netanyahu, a foreign prime minister, 26 standing ovations. I have difficulty looking at that in any other way than we're occupied. Statistically speaking, we have shown that whoever spends the more money on an election wins 94% of the time. Whoever spent the most wins. We can also show that every time somebody spoke out against Israel or AIPAC, the next election, their challenger was highly funded and wins.
So that is Michael Lester. He's a military guy. He's Jewish. Now, he doesn't talk about being Jewish. But here's a guy that's on Sean Ryan's show that says, we're occupied,
Right.
we're owned. They pick and choose winners and losers. They basically have taken control of our country from within. An enemy, foreign or domestic, is within our grip. Is that anti-Semitic to say?
No, I don't believe so. I don't believe it's anti-Semitic at all. You have good and bad everywhere. There's good white people, bad white people, good blacks, bad blacks, Asians, poor, it doesn't matter. There's good and evil everywhere. So
I don't know any bad Asians. I've been waiting to do that for like 3 weeks. No, Asians always good. Always good.
Oh, God.
The
control room like that.
We are in trouble. Oh.
We've just lost it. No, it's, you know, this is how I see it. It's very plain. Israel was inserted with the notion that they would be able to play the anti-Semitic card, like the left and the Uniparty like to play the racist card,
Right.
okay? That is the narrative that they pushed, and you know, the minute you say anything, you say the word Jew, you're immediately considered to be an anti-Semite for even raising the J word. Well, that's ridiculous. I have lots of Jewish friends. Dr. Zelenko was a very dear, personal, close friend of mine, and he was Jewish, and he called this nonsense out. Because Israel was a nation state that was created by the City of London, essentially,
Right.
the bankers. And they've used it as a wedge to make everybody feel sorry for the Jews. Well, you know what? There is people persecuted all over this planet. And it's not because it's not terrible what happened during the Holocaust, but it's because they're putting those people above everybody else. You know, and it's very frustrating to sit back and see this so clearly play out, where the central bankers recognize they're losing control. We're at the end of life of this financial system that has been architected by the very people, the Rothschilds, etc., the Rockefellers, the Mellons, blah, 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 all down the line, to see that we are here now, our dollar is worth almost nothing, and they are now trying to slide us into a new financial system, and the only way to do this, like they used COVID, is to create war. And frankly, the BRICS nations have done an end run around these financial bankers, Joe.
Yeah.
This is why Saudi Arabia told the United States, you're not flying over our country to go bomb Iran.
Right.
Right? And the Saudis are our friends.
Yeah.
But they don't want any part of it because they are now part of BRICS. And BRICS is now doing what exactly President Trump did in Trump term 1 when he negotiated mano a mano with country to country, dissolved the TPP, dissolved the U.S. Canada. He made U.S. Canada and Mexico. He dissolved all of these institutions so that he could negotiate one-to-one with these countries. And this is what BRICS is doing by using asset-backed currency, gold-backed basket of currencies with, doesn't matter what your currency is, we will settle debts in gold. That brings peace because you've now got real trade going on. And you can pretty much call it free trade, essentially.
Yeah, you could.
It's free trade. And that's what we really need to get to. And Trump is playing this tariff game really to appease the bankers. And the bankers themselves are being set up for failure because as Trump has now made minerals a national security interest, gold and silver, they are now going to revalue gold and silver, and anybody that owns it is going to be very wealthy.
Well, keep in mind the banks actually value it at like $10 or $20.
Well, we just saw the reset. It was $42 for gold.
Yeah.
It was the last time it was valued by the government. But we just saw what the banks did. J.P. Morgan last Friday, a week ago Friday, massively shored up their short and long positions in silver because they had been selling it down on this ETFs, these fake paper contracts of silver, where you can't fill anything at that price because the physical price of silver is well over $100. It's going well over 130 in Asia.
Well, it's down now. It crashed a bit, quite a bit actually. And I had an arbitrage opportunity to go grab 200 pounds of silver, just fly it to China, and make a gaggle of cash. Then a friend of mine called me and said they're going to use that silver in bombs. Don't do it. I was like, okay. But it was like easy. It was $78 here. It was $104 there. I would have made a couple $100,000 on it. And boom. And then,
exactly. But that tells you that the physical price is not what the paper price is not what you can buy it for physically. And so the banks had shorted this for a long time. J.P. Morgan, cost of doing business, got just short of $1 billion fine on it. They don't care. It's not about you and me. It's about them. And so going back to Israel has been used, and I feel terrible for the real good people of Israel, not the government. They're evil.
I mean, it's
so
pretty
evil.
And they found their footing in these godless, faithless people.
100%, which is what you see running around Capitol Hill. Godless, faithless people.
Yeah, I mean, look, I got called. I had a friend of mine that invited me to go to a dinner, and he's Jewish, but he's a faithful Jew, and my business partner is Jewish. And again, never in 14 years have I had an argument with him about anything.
Right.
And my family's mixed, right? So I have Catholics and Jews, and I mean, I'm a mutt.
Right.
But he took me to this meeting with these 5 other guys, and I said, but God. I was talking about President Trump's win in November, and it was highly unlikely to happen if it wasn't for intervention, but God, he wouldn't have won. And it'd be a different world right now with Kamala Harris at the front, and we'd be burning to the ground. And President Trump would be in prison, and his family's legacy would be destroyed.
Right.
And I said, but God. And this guy's like, don't talk to me about God. And I was like, well, why wouldn't I talk to you about God? He goes, well, we're atheists. And I look at my friend, and I was like, Mike, you an atheist? And he's like, no, I'm agnostic. I was like, no, you're not. You're not agnostic. You and I prayed together. You're not. And I called him out in the middle of this deal with 4 other guys, and we almost went to blows. And he called me a goyim, right? And I said, say it again. Say it one more time. I stood up, got right over him, and I was like, come on, man, you're a tough guy, right? I'm just a Christian. You can just step on me, right? Step on me in the middle of the restaurant. And I'm not a violent person. I am capable of great violence. But the idea that these people, these guys, these 4 other guys are money guys, right? And that they could have such reckless regard. It wasn't for God. It was reckless regard for the American people. Called them all stupid. When he called me basically this
slur.
Yeah. I took offense to it to the point where I almost pummeled this guy.
Yeah.
But they represent a group of people that would call me an anti-Semite. They would say that you're... But what they're allowed to do to us, this group of people, not the Jews that are faithful people of Israel. Those are Jews. I'm talking about the Jewish people.
They're Israeli.
Right.
They're the real Israel.
But I have a hard time getting that across without the, oh, you're an anti-Semite, you're a hate monger, you're this. And I'm like,
That's by design, Joe.
Right.
It's all by design. It's to keep us in this little box. It's to keep us on the treadmill, to keep us producing, to let the Federal Reserve keep printing money so that they can, look, USAID.
Right.
You know, this is what they've been doing. They're laundering the money. Our NGOs that we're funding with tax dollars have been funding the invasion of the border. United Nations needs to be, we need to withdraw, defund and exit. NATO, United Nations, and we've fully out of the WHO as far as I'm concerned. Although President Trump's recent moves have been very detrimental to their financial health over there and their fiefdom. But go ahead.
no, I do want to give a little bit of credit to some of the other things that you reposted. One from 2024 that you just reposted, and that was with Kim.com, who has then since retreated from the idea of what he said back in 2024.
Go ahead, read it.
And it says, this must be the most important post you'll ever read because it provides a simple explanation about why our world is being destroyed by design.
Right.
Now, when he wrote this, President Trump was not in office, right? He had to say this, I'm not anti-Semitic or a Nazi. I'm simply a former hacker with great analytical skills who understands what's happening in the world. At the end of this post, I will quote from a world domination plan. You will recognize the truth immediately because that's what's currently happening in the world. Today's reality suggests that this plan is real. When you do your own research, you will learn that the origin of this plan was discredited and the alleged creators have nothing to do with it. But who was the person providing the key evidence? It was Allen Dulles, the man who raised money from U.S. industrialists to fund Adolf Hitler, his Nazi party, and his war. The man who later became the director of the CIA during Kennedy and the head of the Warren Commission that investigated the Kennedy assassination. Why would anybody believe a man with such a questionable character? The Protocols of the Elders of Zion has unquestionable borrowed ideas and several authors, but you can say that most important writings throughout history, throughout history, it was called a fabrication and is one of the first uses of the term conspiracy theory. Why do scientists have a massive overrepresentation in the media, politics, banking, and world affairs? How did such a small community get to dominate all the centers of power and information? Why can Israel ignore UN resolutions, international law, and commit genocide in Gaza to standing ovations in the U.S. Congress? Why is Israel acting like it is above the law, seemingly without any fear of consequences? Read some of the alleged Zionist world domination plan below and compare it with reality. Is all of this just a coincidence?
There's no coincidences, Joe.
No, there isn't.
There isn't. And the CIA was very involved in the Kennedy assassination. Let's bring it forward to today, Charlie Kirk's assassination.
Yes.
Okay, let's talk about that because Charlie was making some very bold statements. And I'm going to say this in full transparency. I knew Charlie Kirk way back when. I'd interviewed a few times in 2017. I had met him in 2015, I believe it was, here in Colorado, Steamboat Institute.
Yeah.
You know, Rick Aiken's operation up there. Really good stuff. Anyhow,
People put their talons in him early.
They did. They put their talons in him early. So, very bright young man, and like you, built a behemoth of a company, right? TPUSA is huge. A lot of moving parts.
I donated money to him.
Yeah, same. I mean, there's just lots of moving parts, okay? So, to that point, you can't always be knowing what's going on everywhere because you trust your people. You have to have some element of trust. There's no way you can do everything in your company. One man cannot run what you have here.
No, I have
not
a
even close.
Good team.
Right. So the problem is when you get singled out because people recognize you're a magnet and you're trustworthy, that's when the bad guys swoop in and infiltrate because they're going to place their chess pieces around you and use you to raise a lot of money. But Charlie started to question. I watched Charlie and I started to see him lean a little bit too much into the establishment, and I was like, So I stopped paying attention to him. Didn't dislike him, just stopped paying attention because I'm sort of the anti-establishment person. When I learned after the fact, after he'd been assassinated, how he had changed his opinion on things, that's when I went, oh my goodness, we are repeating JFK all over again. Because I think Charlie Kirk could have been president one day.
100%. And he, by the way, he right before he died, literally a couple weeks before he died, I don't think it was a couple weeks, it was the 5th of September, he wrote a letter to the TPUSA staff
Doge.
saying we're going to doge
Yep.
the organization. He had turned down nearly $130 million from an Israeli lobbyist group.
Right.
And all the funding that he had previously, he was looking at, he basically had an aha moment where he's like, I can't in good conscience keep going down this path.
Right.
And he was starting to question and call out certain elements. Look, there's so much that I want to say about Charlie, but he wasn't shot with a
No. 30-06.
30-06.
No.
It's impossible, actually.
I personally believe the mic theory. I believe it was a similar mic to this. Sadly enough.
Yeah, no,
Hope they're not listening to
you're
this. Thank
fine-
God we're
you're
taping.
fine here. Yeah. I mean, this room is very secure. Charlie was not killed by a 30-06. He was not shot from a roof at 200 yards.
No.
And the bullet did not miraculously stop at the back of his neck.
No.
I am very familiar with guns, what they can do, what the ballistics are.
You own gun stores.
I do, and I'm very well trained. And so the lies that have been perpetrated on the American people that they've been expected to swallow are horrendous and are completely contradict reality, almost
Right.
on purpose.
And our FBI is complicit in covering those lies, covering them up.
Which then we have to talk about Cash Patel and Dan Bongino being at the head of that snake.
Yeah.
And why?
Well, and why? Again, it was because they were. America really was so enamored with both of them, right?
Yeah.
We felt very secure with Cash, very secure with Dan. You know, people that were calling it out. They'd written books on it. God knows how much money they'd made talking about the swamp, the deep state, the government, gangsters, etc. I mean, I think both of their books could have been used by the prosecutors to go and arrest dozens of people.
Yes.
Easily.
Yeah.
Okay? Easily.
But they didn't.
But they didn't. They're there. Dan went in. We all had high hopes because he's a real headbanger. And he quit. He quit and came back, and now he's a Fox News contributor, and he has his podcast.
He's a quitter.
It's a terrible look. And, you know, he comes back and he's talking about he's the podfather and that he's going to be, you know, instead of going after the people you went in there to go after, now you're going after those of us that are like, well, what happened?
Yeah.
We dare to ask questions. And there's influencers out there that are, you know, carrying the water, and then you wonder, whose payroll are these people on?
Well,
Because
then-
clearly it's not the one that you and I are sitting here trying to actually make something happen.
Well, let's talk about Charlie.
Right.
Let's go back to Charlie. When's the last time you've seen a video about Charlie?
Oh, gosh. I can't think.
I said it to a friend
They,
of mine.
they,
and he's
they
like,
took it out of the news cycle.
No, they took it out of everything.
Out of
Go
everything.
to TPUSA, you can't find it. You see a mural of Charlie and nothing else.
That's right.
None of the things that Charlie
None of his
represented.
Right.
They're all gone.
They're all gone. They've erased him.
They've literally erased the man.
Yep, they've erased him.
And guess who was at the head of erasing him? Erica Kern.
Yeah, no, I didn't want to say that.
And I know what it's like to lose someone really close to me.
Same.
And there's no way in the world I would give a shit about how much merchandise I sold. I wouldn't care. I would not be able to get back into that. I lost my brother, murdered by a police officer. There's pictures in my office
Right.
still, right? Mm-hmm. Took me a year and a half to recover, right? She recovered 15 minutes later and forgave the person that shot her husband, the father of her children.
I don't have that in me to forgive somebody who killed somebody that was so important to me.
And yet they've erased him.
He's nowhere. He's absolutely nowhere. There's no videos of him. They don't even reference him. They don't talk. I mean, they still have this Charlie Kirk podcast, which is not doing well at all. They've lost all their viewership.
Because it's not real.
It's not real.
And I think people are looking for real. They're looking for real.
Yeah.
And we've kind of gone through I almost feel like I'm blackpilling myself as I'm sitting here talking to you, which I'm not, because I feel very hopeful about what's going to happen. Because either way, God's going to either set it right or we're going to set it right, and God's going to help us do it.
We got to call out what's real and what's fake, and we have to act on it, because we all have, as members of this supposed constitutional republic that's smothered by a blanket of code, U.S. code, if we really want to kick the blanket off and get rid of it, we have an incumbent civic duty. That is in our documents. It's right there. We have a civic duty. We are the government, so we have to start acting like it. And we already have all the, look, standing up citizen grand juries, indicting, arresting, and prosecuting these people, and then throwing them in the jail. We have the courthouses, we have the prisons, we have the facilities we need. The architecture is there. We need to stand up, and we need to start embracing our civic duty, because we already know with the evidence that we have before us, whether it's COVID, whether it's Benghazi, Fast and Furious, you name the scandal, the evidence is there. Congress has done nothing. Why? Because they're owned. Who
and,
they
and
own?
Eric Holder's still in the middle of all this thing that we're going through. You talk about Fast and Furious. He was
100%.
right in the middle of that killed an American, right?
Yes, killed an American, Brian Terry.
Yeah, and nobody talks about it. Nobody, again.
Oh, yes, we do. We got something going on later on this month, or actually, March.
Well, look, I wanted to get more into Roger Stone and some of the things that he's done, but in essence, you can go to your socials and you can see all this stuff that we're talking about on your socials.
Yeah.
What is that again?
Ann Vandersteel.
Is it at Ann Vandersteel?
At Ann Vandersteel. Truth, Getter, Facebook, X, LinkedIn, all of it.
Go. We follow you. You follow me. I see all your stuff. and some of it, I look at it and go, what if we were allowed to speak truth? What kind of a different world would we live in? And it'd be a different world. It'd be a different world.
Yeah.
One that's not, that would, I think, offer opportunity to people that are disadvantaged in America, like our own people. MAGA. So are you MAGA or MIGA?
MAGA.
Okay, just
I'm
checking.
AF. America first.
Yeah.
Some people are now AO, America only.
Yeah.
I'm kind of leaning into that at this point, because if we don't make it about America at this point, there'll be no America for the rest of the world when the world has a hiccup. We've always been the guardian, since our inception. And it's the institution, it's what people fundamentally believe, that we have a human right to be free. And the rest of the world is echoing that. They're showing it, they're rising up. The populism is growing very quickly worldwide. It's infectious. But for whatever reason, the empire is striking back, and I call that the City of London empire. They're striking back on us.
Yeah.
And they're doing everything they can to completely enslave us into this digital prison. So, my hope is that President Trump is playing some kind of deep chess game here.
Yeah.
But we can't, hope is not a strategy, Joe.
No, it's not.
You have to
I've
be
said that a lot.
prepared to see with your eyes what's happening. And what he's doing is walking us into a digital prison. And whether he has a trapdoor plan to get us out of it and arrest all these people that are going to trap us in this prison, I don't know. But I can't believe in something that I can't see. There's only one thing I can do with that, and that's God.
Yeah.
Okay? And I see God on the planet everywhere. But I haven't met the man yet. I know him, I haven't met him. I'm going to meet Jesus one day, but it's not right sitting here in this podcast with you. So my faith is in the people. We have to act upon what we can see. And when you see institutions that are overblown, tyrannical, and corrupt taking your freedoms, it's incumbent upon you to engage that civic duty and say no more. We have the jails. We have our Fifth Amendment right to convene a citizen grand jury. We need to start doing it. And the sheriffs better be on board.
Yeah.
They have to be on board. And if not, then the people need to get together and elect a new sheriff.
I know a lot of them that are, but we have to have free and fair elections first. The backbone
100%.
behind what we do has to get rid of machines, mail-in ballots, and all that stuff,
got
and
it.
get to a place where we have secure elections. And thanks for joining me. I know we went through a lot of stuff, and I kind of dropped the bomb of our debt not being $38 trillion.
I'm going to go look into that.
Well, then you're going to really go down a rabbit hole because
I can't wait.
It was a lot.
If that in fact turns out to be true, Joe, you broke one of the biggest stories probably ever on the planet.
Well, I have a habit of breaking stuff. I broke Dominion in November of 2020. People got sued as a result of it. I feel really bad about that.
Yeah. Hey, my podcast isn't a footnote in a lot of those lawsuits, apparently.
Yeah. No, it's really bad because I'm not afraid of the fight. But I did see a lot of people that capitulated to it because they were.
Yeah.
And truth to me was not, it was not negotiable. Like I personally would rather just fight to the death. And people were like, Joe, you're this the hill to die on? I was like, it absolutely is. the voice of the American people is absolutely the hill to die on. It's the hill to die on. So, yeah, I think that we're being proven to be the victors in all this, but I do appreciate the work.
War is ugly, and winning ugly is still winning.
It's still winning. I'd rather win ugly than lose gracefully.
That's exactly right.
I'm not built that way.
Yeah,
so.
clearly.
So guys, we have a bunch of stuff happening tomorrow. Obviously, we're gonna continue to talk about election fraud and some of the things that we face, not just in Colorado but around the country. I've had a 5-year kind of knock at the door. I don't think there's been a podcast that's gone by that I haven't said we have no free and fair elections. I'm going to tell you all that the 4 things that I tell you to do: pray, stand, speak, act. Remember it. Pray first, then stand up, then make sure you speak truth, and then act in that truth. It's biblical. And when you're done acting, go back to prayer so you never become the very thing that you're fighting against. All right, I'm going to pray us out, and I will see you guys tomorrow. And you know where to follow Ann. She's got a bunch of stuff that she's going to be breaking. And am I allowed to talk about what you're going to be doing on Alex Jones, or is that still kind of up in the air?
Well, it's kind of up in the air, but
okay.
You might see me more regularly on Alex Jones in the morning.
So it'd be good to have her on Alex Jones. Have another lightning rod with a sword on Alex Jones broadcast. So I pray out. I end every show with a prayer.
Beautiful.
It's my way of kind of recentering myself, because I get pretty fiery about some of the things.
I never noticed that, Joe.
Not at all. All right. Father God, thank you for Ann. Thank you for her thirst for truth that's unquenchable. Thank you for her ability to step in the gap and to, against all odds, just fight without any regard for what the consequences may be. And she's faced a lot. We're grateful for the work that she's done, and we're grateful for the place that you've put her in all of this. Father, I ask you to put a special blessing over Ann and her family, guard them, protect them, allow her to continue to fight from inside and to speak truth, again, regardless of the consequences. Help us, Father, that we may set aside petty differences, get to a place where we can embrace truth, and really stay aligned in restoration, restoring you to our community, to our country, and to the very existence that we have on this planet. Father, help us that we may be kind to each other, that we may offer others around us grace and be forgiving, while at the same time making sure that we seek consequences and accountability against the evil that has consumed our country and our world. Help us, Father, that we may pull back that veil. And Father, I just ask you to be with President Trump, be with our leaders, and convict them that they must do whatever it takes to drive this evil back into the hole it came from. Help us, Father, that we may be the catalyst at this time of need, that we may do and serve as necessary to restore. I ask these things humbly in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I will see you guys tomorrow. Thursday, kind of a tough day. We'll probably pre-record that deal. I go in for another pokey poke by the judge, that too, but by the doctors, and so should be a fun time. We'll get me all straightened out here at some point. But God bless you. We'll see you tomorrow.
Whoa, whoa. The forgotten and the free, exposing rigged machines, Kuma's lies, Dominion's deceit, pays a grand each day, shielding truth from corrupt halls, but he won't back down, standing tall through it all. Argentina Peters break the chains that bind her tight, hand count votes and one day bring the fraud to light. No more mailing scams, no machines to steal the night. Restore the people's voice, make Colorado right. Governor Oltmann, lead us bold and true. Badass for the have-nots, fighting through and through. Abolish property tax, cut the tolls away. Shrink the bloated state, let the people have their say. It's our rally call. Truth and freedom rise and watch the tyrants fall. Untamed Colorado, strong and proud. our dominions, rig design, expose the stolen votes, cross a dangerous line. No more victimhood, no chains on you and me. He's running for governor for real liberty. Smash the fraud machine, pardon heroes jailed for the have-nots. Rising truth will never fail. One warrior defies the corrupt elite. Colorado reborn, strong on our feet. Governor Oltmann, lead us bold and true. Badass for the have-nots, fighting through and through. Abolish property tax, cut the tolls away. Shrink the bloated state, let the people have the say. Governor Oltmann, it's our rally call. Truth and freedom rising, watch the tyrants fall. Untamed Colorado, strong and proud we'll be. One man for the people, set our great state free. Governor Oltmann, lead us bold and true. Governor Oltmann, freedom forever, Colorado rise. Governor Oltmann, Governor Oltmann, Governor Oltmann, Governor Oltmann, Governor Oltmann, Governor Oltmann. Whoa. Rise up, untamed. In the heart of the fight where the wild ones roam, Joe Oltmann's calling, bringing truth back home. From conservative daily to this untamed fire, we shatter the silence, lifting spirits higher. No chains can hold us, no lies can prevail. Authentic and fearless on this rugged trail. Patriots gather under stars and stripes. Untamed nation, igniting the night. Untamed nation, let the truth roll out in this land of the free. Standing proud from sea to shining sea, we won't back down. Catch the fire, wear the crown. Untamed nation, it's our battle song, motivating hearts where the brave belong. Yeah, untamed and wild, forever strong. Play it again all night long. Break the mold, chase the real. No more games, time to heal. Joe's voice leads the untamed crew. Truth matters through and through. Untamed nation, let the truth roll out in this land of the free. Standing proud from sea to shining sea, we won't back down. Catch the fire, wear the crown. Untamed nation, it's our battle song, motivating hearts where the brave